Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys, well, in this case, one guy who's never been on the turf. My name is Arjun Ryan, and this week, Shri and Rohan are both busy with a lot of finals. All of mine are next week, so it's just going to be me today, and we're just going to be running through my favorite picks, all of the picks for Week 14 of the NFL season, along with looking at some bets for this week as well. For any of you that are betting against the spread, we'll be going through that and talking about my favorite picks of the week. So let's move on to the real games this week. Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking on the Cleveland Browns. Currently, Jacksonville obviously suffering, dodging a little bit of a bullet on Monday Night Football with Trevor Lawrence's ankle injury. It looks like this will be a high ankle sprain. Don't expect him to play this week. Christian Kirk, one of their top wide receivers in Jacksonville, also suffered a core muscle injury. Could limit him till very deep into the playoffs. If Jacksonville makes a run, it's the only time we'll be seeing Kirk to Lawrence or Lawrence to Kirk later this season. I expect C.J. Beathard to play well. This is going to be two backup quarterbacks, likely Joe Flacco or Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting again. I expect Flacco to start. He played pretty well against the Rams until kind of the wheels fell off at the end there. Nevertheless, for the Browns, their quarterback situation, obviously facing a backup quarterback, I expect the Browns to eventually win this game. Denzel Ward will be coming back to start cornerback for the Browns. Myles Garrett getting healthy. Amari Cooper might be coming off the concussion protocol. Joe Flacco played pretty well last week, so I expect the Browns to win this game. It won't be a terribly high-scoring game. I'll say the Browns win 20-17. The spread currently is Browns -3, so you can take the Browns at -3. I think they will win. Won't be a blowout by any means, but I expect the Browns to take care of business here. Next, a really fun one. The Los Angeles Rams at 6-6, 3-game winning streak heading to Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. The Ravens coming off a bye. John Harbaugh, great coach. Lamar Jackson, playing well, not exactly MVP football, but playing very well this season. The only starting quarterback left in the AFC North has not been injured. Hopefully he can stay healthy the rest of the season. This Ravens defense is really the story for me. I think their defense is out of this world. It's the number one defense currently in yards allowed. This Rams offense is really good with Matt Stafford, and I expect the Rams to cover the 7.5-point spread. Nevertheless, I think the Ravens' defense is going to keep this game from getting out of hand. I like the Rams' offense a lot. I love Puka Nacua. I love Kyron Williams. I love what Sean McVay is doing this year. But the Ravens have more talent overall, and coming off a bye, I trust John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson to get it done. I'll say the Ravens win 24-23, but the Rams cover that 7.5-point spread. Next game, moving on, is the Detroit Lions heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Lions are only favored by 3. The Lions are a team I've loved all this season. Especially earlier this season, I loved what they were doing on offense. I love that improved defense, number one run defense in the league through the first, I want to say third of the season or so. But this Lions defense is really, the wheels have fallen off recently. Aaron Glenn's defense has not been stopping teams. The Saints were able to get back into that. The Lions went up 21-0 last week, halfway through the first quarter, and that game was not finished until basically the last 2 minutes. That Lions defense really allowed the Saints to get back into the game. And that Lions offense is one of the league's best, don't get me wrong. I love what Jared Goff's doing, love what Ben Johnson's doing, using all these young playmakers and get them in space and letting Jared Goff throw them the ball. Sam Laporta had a great game last week. Despite that, I think the Lions are going to win this game. I think this offense is going to continue to do what it's been doing all season. I think this Bears offense can sometimes be very limited. I expect Justin Fields to make some athletic plays. He always does that against the Lions. Just a couple weeks ago, this Bears team looked like it had a win against the Lions and had them dead to rights. But I think the Lions take care of business here. I'll say 30-24, covering that 3-point spread for the Lions. I think they need to get right game, and they get to 10 wins and exceeding their wins from last year. Next game on the schedule is the Panthers and the Saints. Won't spend too much time on this game. Not exactly the most exciting game. I expect the Panthers to come out here with a great effort. I think this new coaching staff hopefully will have some things ready. I think Jameis Winston will be playing, so that defense may have a couple turnovers go their way. But I think the Saints are going to win. They're the most talented team. The Panthers are still a dumpster fire. Bryce Young's been playing okay, not much to work with. But I still trust Jameis Winston. I think he's a fun quarterback. I will be starting him in fantasy this week because Kyler Murray's on bye. So I hope Jameis does well, and I think he will do just well enough. I think the Saints win 22-17. Next game coming up is the Buccaneers and the Falcons, the second NFC South matchup between these two teams. The Falcons won the first matchup in a game that looked like neither of these teams wanted to win. Falcons are favored by 1.5 points currently. I think at this point in the season, the Falcons are the better team. That Bucs defense is really not as good as we thought. They got a win against the Panthers last week, but kind of escaped a little bit. That Bucs defense is getting old. Baker Mayfield is doing everything in his power, but they don't really have a running game. They're very Mike Evans, Rachaad White dependent. I like what this Falcons team is doing and everything basically except the quarterback position. The defense gets turnovers. They're a very underrated defense. That running game is still going to be potent. I think Arthur Smith is a very interesting coach because I think he has one of the most creative run games in the league. But besides that, really struggles with the quarterback position. Doesn't have much to work with, to be fair. But I expect the Falcons to complete their sweep of the Buccaneers and hold on to this NFC South because I think the Falcons are clearly the best team at this point in the NFC South. Not a great division, not a great team, but kings of shit mountain, as it were. Next one is the Colts and the Bengals. This spread has really tightened up in the past couple days between these two teams. Jake Browning winning Offensive Player of the Week on Monday night. Great story for Jake Browning, and I expect he's not going to have that kind of game again. But this Colts defense isn't amazing. Will Levis and the Titans were able to take them to OT. Jake Browning, had a great game last week. I expect that's why this spread is tightened, and the Bengals are actually favored by 1 point in this game now. This is a tough one for me, but I'm going to take the Bengals here. I think the Colts are a good team, a very well-coached team that's kind of playing up against their talent. I think Shane Steichen's doing a fantastic job this year in terms of his situation, what the talent is. But I think this Bengals offense really has a ton of playmakers, and I think we saw on Monday night that even Jake Browning can get Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, all of them, and Tyler Boyd, their opportunities, and I think he'll do that. I think the Bengals are going to win this. I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game. I'll say the Bengals win 27-23, covering that 1-point spread. Next one, Texans at Jets. The C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans heading on to face against Zach Wilson again, back in the starting role. Hopefully for the last time for the Jets. Not much to talk about here. This Jets defense is good. It's going to keep the game fairly close early on, but I expect C.J. Stroud and his heroics to take them to the win here. We know what this Jets offense is. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. One of the worst offenses I've ever seen, except the Patriots and the Steelers offense maybe. Actually, the Steelers are a little bit better than the Jets. The Jets offense really sucks. They're really bad. And this Houston defense is very opportunistic, very good. We saw that last week in that final drive against Denver. C.J. Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, shoo-in, and maybe MVP contender as well. He's playing amazing. He'll continue to play amazing. I'll say a fairly low-scoring game, 20-13 Texans covering that 3.5-point spread, which interesting to me. I mean, I know the Jets are at home, but this defense is good. But I think they have to, unfortunately, cover up for one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. I really hate the Jets offense. Next, let's move on to the Seahawks at the 49ers. We saw this game just a couple weeks ago on Thanksgiving. Niners blew the Seahawks out of the gate. Just want to say, I was the only guy out of us three on the podcast to be saying that the Niners are the best team in the league for the past 3 weeks or so. And then we saw what happened on Sunday against the Eagles. Niners are clearly the best team in the league. They'll win again against the Seahawks. It's a divisional game. Could get close. I expect the Seahawks to keep it close throughout the game. We saw that Seahawks offense take off a little bit in that Dallas game. I'll say the Niners win 30-23. Seahawks covered that 10.5-point spread, but still a loss for them. Next one, we have a absolute really fun game between two backup quarterbacks. The Raiders at the Vikings, the Vikings at the Raiders rather. Both these teams coming off a bye. Joshua Dobbs seems to will be back as the starter for Minnesota. Justin Jefferson will be coming back into this lineup, which would be a huge boost to that offense, which has been pretty okay, apart from that whatever happened on Monday night a couple weeks ago against the Bears. Aiden O'Connell's been playing okay, not amazing. I think the Raiders are a really well-coached team with Antonio Pierce. I think they have a lot of belief. They have a lot of, they're going to keep fighting in every game. But the Vikings may be getting one of the best, if not the best, offensive playmaker in the league back in their lineup. Joshua Dobbs is not great. He's not amazing. He's not very good, in fact. But he can get to the ball to the right playmakers. We saw it to T.J. Hawkinson. Gives more opportunities to Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson is back. Will be a close game because the Raiders will not stop fighting with this coaching staff, and I believe in them. But I think the Vikings win 20-17. 3-point spread. I think I take the Vikings at that spread. I think the Raiders could steal this game from the Vikings, but I believe in Justin Jefferson, and I think he's going to make this job really fun and interesting for Joshua Dobbs. Next game, before we get to the two biggest games of Week 14 of the NFL season, the Denver Broncos are heading to LA to face off against the Chargers. The Broncos, I thought they were going to be, I thought they were going to win last week in Houston. Obviously, a very close game. I think Russ, despite the 3 picks, has been pretty good this season. He's been playing efficient football. I think he's showing some of that vintage Russ here and now. And, to be honest with you, I don't like this Chargers team at all. I think this Chargers team is terribly coached. I think this offense is underperforming. This defense is terrible. They put up 6 points against the Patriots. I know the Patriots are a good defense, but you have Justin Herbert, you have Keenan Allen, you have Austin Eckler. You have all these playmakers, but you can only put up 6 points. Can't put up a touchdown against the Patriots, who are giving you a free field essentially every time they step out on offense. I just think this Chargers team, I'm not sure why they're favored in this game by 2.5. I guess that's the Justin Herbert effect. I love Justin Herbert. I really hope he gets a better coaching staff, but the Broncos have the way better coach team, the way better defense, and basically everything except quarterback. I would take the Broncos in, except receiver. Keenan Allen is a straight dog. I have him on my fantasy team as well, 12-1 Sun Gods. But I think the Broncos are going to win this game. I think they'll beat the spread of 2.5 points. I think they're going to cover and win 21-20. This Broncos team is well coached, and they'll get to 7-6 on the year. Now, the two biggest games of Week 14, two big rivalries in each conference, two really fun games. Cannot wait for both of these. The first one, in the 4 o'clock window, the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen and the Bills will be heading to face off against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. We've seen this about every year for the past 4 years. This has been a great rivalry. Buffalo has really owned the rivalry in the regular season. Kansas City coming off of a loss to the Packers. Jordan Love, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but great performance by him. I think Buffalo's going to win this game. I really do. I think the Chiefs are reeling a little bit. I think on defense, they are a very good defense, but when the offense is really not giving them opportunities, they can't do much. This is still a very good defense. The offense, look, in that game against the Packers, Patrick Mahomes had the ball, about 50 seconds to go, had to drive down the field and get a 2-point conversion. But it was maybe the first time in the past 4 years where I've seen Patrick Mahomes with the ball, and I'm not entirely convinced he's going to get it done. And he didn't get it done. He doesn't have enough playmakers. Travis Kelce is losing some of his downfield threat ability. These receiving options are not that good. They're probably wide receiver 2s at best, if not wide receiver 3s on most teams. But Buffalo, coming off of that highly emotional loss to Philadelphia just about 2 weeks ago in overtime, I think they're going to come in here with something to prove. They've owned Kansas City in the regular season. I think they're going to continue to do that. I think Josh Allen's going to have a great game. If you're asking me who has the better game between these two quarterbacks, I think Josh Allen does. I think he's, despite the turnovers, I think Josh Allen's playing really well this year, and he's really doing everything in his power to keep this team afloat. So I think the Bills are going to win this game. I think the Bills get out to an early lead. I think Kansas City chips away a little bit, but I think Buffalo and Josh Allen make a statement win here, getting back in the playoff race. And the Chiefs, if the Chiefs lose this, it'll get very interesting in the AFC playoff race. But I expect the Buffalo Bills to win 24-21 at Arrowhead, and we'll see if Mr. January can get it done in December. Next, the biggest game probably of Week 18 or Week 14 for the playoff race is the Dallas Cowboys heading to Philadelphia to take the Eagles on. This is a 3.5 point spread for the Cowboys, who are favored here. Eagles have started slow in the past couple games. This has kind of been a trend for them all season. Defense isn't amazing, leads to a lot of offensive shootouts. And Dallas, Dak Prescott is, in my opinion, the top MVP candidate over the past month or so of the season. I think he's playing amazing football. And this Eagles team tends to be very Jalen Hurts reliant. This Cowboys team is Dak Prescott reliant, but they have playmakers elsewhere who have been making plays. Michael Parsons making the game-winning play against Seattle. CeeDee Lamb having an absolutely amazing season. These are two teams that are, I'd say, fairly similar, obviously being in the same division. The Eagles got the edge in the first matchup. I think the Cowboys are going to win this one, and the Cowboys are going to start to make their claim for the NFC East and that 1 seed. I think the Cowboys are a better team than the Eagles right now. I think the Eagles are a struggling team that has a lot of talent but needs to get the offense in a rhythm early on, and they're not doing that. If you ask me this year, what exactly is the Eagles' identity? Last year, you could say the Eagles' identity was they're a great running the football team. They're behind the offensive line. But Jalen Hurts on Sunday against the Niners had the lowest time to throw or the highest pressure rate that he's ever faced in his career. So that offensive line is good. It's not as great as it once was. The Eagles this season, their identity is being Jalen Hurts reliant and forcing Jalen Hurts to make plays. That's not a sustainable play style. We've seen that with teams like the Bills over the past couple of years. Very Josh Allen quarterback dependent. We saw that with the Chiefs a couple of years ago as well when they lost in the Super Bowl. You can't rely on your quarterback to make plays every single time. This is a team game. It's not a quarterback game, even though the quarterback is the driver of the team. And for that reason, I think that the Cowboys are the better team right now on offense and defense, and that's why I think the Cowboys are going to win 30-24, covering that 3.5-point spread at Dallas. Finally, our 2 Monday night games. Not two amazing games here, so we'll go through them pretty quickly, but the Green Bay Packers are taking on the New York Giants. The Packers making a statement win. Jordan Love. As a Jordan Love fan, I couldn't be happier to see how well he's doing. I think he's playing amazing football. He's looking like Aaron Rodgers out there. He's making big throws with that sidearm flick. He's got maybe the prettiest release in the league, in my opinion. But I think they're going to continue to roll. This defense is good. This Packers defense is finally good with all the playmakers they have there. Christian Watson, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones might be back, Romeo Doubs, all these young playmakers coming together, and Jordan Love is the one who's connecting them. I think the Packers continue to capitalize on their momentum. I think they're going to be coming off of a high on last Sunday night win, and they're going to be in primetime again. 30-21 Packers. That spread currently is 6.5. I expect them to cover. Next, our final game of week 14. I don't know why I keep saying week 18. Week 14 is the Miami Dolphins taking on the Tennessee Titans. Two very different teams here. The Titans are very clearly rebuilding. The Dolphins are a contender for that 1 seed, currently sitting in the 1 seed right now. Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill on the quest for 2,000 yards. Their connection is really sensational. This Tennessee secondary is not good at all, which is why the spread is currently minus 13 here. I would never take a team at minus 13 unless it's like the Cowboys or something at home because they have a really tendency to do really well with those big spreads. But I think the Titans are going to cover here. Will Levis, the box score won't tell you that, but last week he played really well, showed a lot of poise. He made some big throws for that team and made some plays. I think he's going to keep it close. I think he's going to be a star in the league going forward. Maybe not this year. Doesn't have enough to work with. Dolphins are going to win this game. Not by more than 13, though. I think the Dolphins win 27-17 and continue to stake their claim for the AFC's number 1 seed. But that is about it for this week's edition of Picks and Bets of the Week. Thank you so much for listening. Please check out our Instagram for all of our power rankings, for as well as looking at Shree and Rohan's picks as well on our Instagram. We'll have those up soon as well. Be sure to check out our YouTube for episodes like this, and we'll hopefully be back with everyone next week to discuss all the interesting outcomes of these games and what's to come as we approach the playoffs. My name is Arjun, and we'll see you next week on the turf.